How are you once again? Welcome to another edition of Metal Labs Addiction and Wellness Recovery. As you know, my name is Ron Garrett. We have with us our co host, Pastor Gray. We're always glad to have him here with us. And he has one of his bright and shining disciples, I'm going to call him.
Wow, I like that.
That is going to be with us today for an interview. And so we really appreciate you all making time to be with us today. So as we get started, just to refresh yourself, again, my name is Ron Garrett. I serve as Director of Reentry Health Services and Supports for here at Metalworks Behavioral Health. And then we have Pastor Gray. Tell us who.
CEO Teen Challenger Maryland, Adult Teen Challenger Maryland.
There it is. And then our guest today, just give us your name and what do you, how did you get here? Who are you?
Who am I? Oh my goodness. So my name is Timothy Kulu. Kulu is one of those unique names that come from where I was born and raised, and that's Kenya. How did I get to be a part of this amazing podcast? Well, that's a good question. I went through addiction. I was hell bent in destruction of myself because of the choices I made, and it wasn't fun. But I am grateful that I've been rescued from that, and to have the opportunity to share about it. Yeah.
Excellent. So we're gonna dive right in. Is that all right?
That's fine.
So
Yeah.
so we're not gonna try to be too hard on you today, because guess what? Every one of us that are here, even the co-moderators, we've all been through the same struggles
Okay.
and challenges. You
Okay.
with me?
Yes.
So we're gonna just ask a few questions. We're trying to help our audience to better understand
Okay.
the process of addiction, and help them to better understand that addiction is not necessarily a choice in and of itself. It has a lot to do with some of the genetic predispositions that we're all born with. Is that okay?
That is
Cool.
fine. I feel at home.
So our first question for you then would be, how did addiction become a part of your life? How did it all get started?
Wow. So it started out as having fun, hanging out with the fellas, drinking. It was good times, right? I can date it back to the first time I drank. I'm gonna preserve names and preserve relationships, but I remember the first time it was like what's this called? We call it a quarter in Kenya. Here I think it's a pint. Is it a pint? Yeah. So somebody gave it to me, gave me a half of it, and I was like, go ahead, drink that. I drank it, and you feel that warmth in your mouth, and how bitter it is. But I just took it, and I went straight to bed. So I'm laying there, and I feel it kick in, right? So it's like, I'm going, it's like everything is rotating around me, right? And after that, I fell asleep, right? I would like to say that in that moment, it felt good, right? Because it was a feeling I have never felt before. It was a euphoria as well. But little did I know that the constant consumption of it leads you in a dark path.
Right.
And so in comes high school. I remember being suspended for for selling and also drinking alcohol, right? And when we used to go to holidays, we also, ended up we actually prioritized drinking, as part of the having fun. And then the first time I blacked out, it was New Year's. Back in the day, I used
And how far into this process, when you say from the first time to you experienced a blackout?
Okay. So the first time I had just entered high school, right? And then by the time I black out, it was, I want to say, after high school,
Okay.
and it was the New Year's of 20, was it 2012, going into 2013.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was that. I can't remember that well,
Okay.
but I think it was around that time.
How old were you?
At that time, 2012, probably like 18, 19, around there. And so, when it happened, I remember how it started off. I used to enjoy drinking a little bit, right? But that specific day, I was the designated driver. Let's start there. So I was seated at the passenger side, and I had all the bottles. This is in Kenya, so it's not weird to have open bottles, in the car. Here, it's very, very different. So the driver is drinking, and he sees me. I mean, the driver's not drinking. The driver is driving, and he sees me drinking, and he's like, "Yo, what are you doing?" So I had a whole bottle, tunaitanga mzinga. In Swahili, what I just said is it's called mzinga. Mzinga is like the full 750 ml, almost 1 liter bottle. So I'm just slowly drinking it. People in the back, they have people in the back. They're asking for it. Passing it back. They're passing it forward. I'm continuing to drink. So by the time I get to the event that we were going for, I'm already slammed. And then the next thing I remember is being told how I messed up. And it was a bad experience, of course, because you come out of it and there's shame, there is regret, there's all these things that you feel. But the lie that I told myself was like, but it felt good. I had a good time before blacking. I had a good time, right? And that's the constant lie that I used to tell myself, right? And the way that it got to that point, I believe, after a lot of self-reflection, was we used to hang out, right? We'd buy a bottle, but it was almost like racing to see that bottle gone. And I believe that's part of the reason as to why the addiction started to slowly grip me.
Gotcha.
Right? Yeah.
Excellent. So we're gonna let Pastor Jonathan as well too.
My question is, how long? When did you decide you needed help? When did you realize that? And how long did it take to get there from when you started drinking to when you, all right, I need to get help? How long was that?
Wow, that's a long time. My first blackout, that's around 2012, 2013, yeah. When I decided to get help, like all together, like, yo, I need help, that was in 2020. The end of 2020.
It's been 7 years.
Yeah, beginning of 2021, around that time. But in between that, there was a period where I sought help, but it was because I went into a situation of self-harm. And realizing that, I can't go into this direction. So I remember that day, I got drunk, and then I was so full of regret, and I was like, yo, I just want to end it all, because in between this time frame, there have been moments when I was smart enough to know that I had a problem, dumb enough to care, right?
Understood.
And there were moments when reality hit me, because as you drink, alcohol is a depressant, right? It starts off with euphoria, but what it does to you, it maximizes the depression, right? So in that state of being depressed and adding alcohol to it, right, I was like, you know what, I'm done. This was around 2017. I'm done, right? So I attempted self-harm, and then I remember that night in the state of, I felt like, still kind of drunk, but also sick, and the people who have drunk themselves silly, they understand where that is, right? And so I remember calling my mom. We were in the same house. So I called my mom. I was like, "Hey, mom, I need help. I'm done. I tried to self-harm, all this." And she was obviously devastated. So she comes into the room, and she's like, "Let's go." And we end up in the hospital. But because you've self-harmed, they usually isolate, but they monitor you.
Understood.
So it's like you're quote unquote low-key locked up. Can't really do much. Can't leave. And so I remember being in that room, and that, to a degree, was the beginnings of recovery. This is like 2017, right? And I remember the process. It was good. It was amazing, coming out of it. Hated the medication that they gave, though, because it slows you down. You know what I mean? There is cases where it helps you, but it also slows you down, right? That's how I felt. And I wanted to be out of there. And this time was for the good reasons. I wanted to be out there. Actually, no. Before that, there was a party that I was supposed to go to. It was a big deal party. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to leave. But at the same time, at the end of it all, when I couldn't get the chance to go to that party, it was the beginning process of recovery.
Got it.
Because, I was assigned a therapist who helped me. And I remember part of the help was she told me to look into Ecclesiastes and how everything that I was doing was meaningless, right? And that helped me. That actually helped me. I still hold on to that now, and I held on to it when and we'll get to the adult and teen challenge part of it. But yeah, so after that, I went back into the addiction. Even worse, and then 2020 happened, and then I remember calling my brother. This is when I lost everything. I was homeless. My relationships, I had burnt a lot of bridges, if not all. The only bridge I didn't burn was the bridge with God. Honestly, that's the only bridge that still stands, but I had burnt all the bridges, right? And so I remember being at a mall. No. That was the first time. The second time, I remember being at my aunt's on the couch because she had let me stay there for a little while, and just calling my brother and being like, you know what? I'm at that point where I truly need help. I've tried to do this alone. I've tried to stop drinking by myself, and every single time I have failed. And this was true because I would stop for like 3 months and then back at it. And then I use the analogy of, how somebody who has broken their legs, right, needs a wheelchair or a crutch. I need that. And you are my wheelchair, you're my crutch. And he was like, that's what I've been waiting for.
Excellent. So I've heard you talk quite a bit about your experience with alcohol. Was that your primary drug of choice, or were there other things that you were involved in?
Primarily alcohol, and before that, there was a weed aspect of it. When people say that weed is a gateway drug, I truly believe that, because in my experience, that is. Because I remember when weed was primary, right? And how it comes with paranoia, how it comes with all these things, right? And the paranoia got so bad, I really wanted to stop it. And I stopped it. And then that's a whole redemption story where God came into play. I remember stopping it this was 2015, May 7th, 2015. I related to that because that's the day I can say for sure I was on my knees and the Lord saved me, because I was, I can say that's the day I got saved, right? On a one-on-one with God, and then stop. Anyway, so when I got back to drinking after backsliding from that situation, that's a whole story in itself. I was chasing the high, for the weed high. When you can smoke weed, you can be high for like 4 hours, 5 hours straight, even longer, depending on the strain, right? With alcohol, you feel that buzz for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then it drops. Then you add a little bit more, and you get that, and then it drops. The problem is your body does not dilute all the alcohol.
Right.
So the more you add, the buzz disappears, but you get clumsy.
Right. Less control of
it.
Yeah.
It just takes over you.
Yeah.
And that's.
When did you come into the Teen Challenge? What year was that?
2021.
21 when you came in. So you had this journey of back and forth from 2012 to 2017. You come to our program in 2021. So you're talking almost 10 years of back and forth.
Oh yeah.
For there. So in that, you also described a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
In that, and that's one of the mainstays of I don't know, DNA process, I guess I wanted you to describe that. Did you feel like your recovery doesn't sound like it was linear? Do you feel like it was a straight line?
It was not. Oh my goodness, it was not. It was up and down, battling with myself. That's the primary thing. It's a battle with yourself. I go back to the statement of smart enough to know, dumb enough to care. I was smart enough to make this a linear process. If I so chose just to move in discipline, move in relationship with God, and self-control, self-denial, and all these things that make you a better person. That's hard. It is, but it's worth it. I took the easy route to going back into the addiction, and it was easier that way, but it was harder. The road, that direction or the route that I took was longer, was harder, because in the days when I sat back and thought about it, I was like, oh my goodness, if I just decided to move this way, this would have been easier than taking the long route, taking the hard route of constantly going back and forth with the addiction. It was not linear at all. It was
you
not.
made a statement that I wanted you to go back and unpack a little bit more. You said most of that was inside you.
Yeah.
You didn't put it on the alcohol or the weed. You put it on yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
So describe what do you mean by that?
So let me start by saying that there was a point when I blamed it on the alcohol, right? The alcohol made me do it. But upon self-reflection, and this is after the recovery, and there's a lot of self-analysis, right? And just being honest with yourself. Even during the addiction, being honest with yourself, but it was easier to blame something else other than yourself, right? So in those moments, it was me struggling with my traumas. It was me struggling with wanting to become a better person and not willing to put in the work of becoming that better person. It was me choosing to go to the bottle every single time. It was me having an issue with my parents or my girlfriend or that in those times, or a friend, and being like, what's gonna be easier for me is if I go to that bottle instead of facing the situation like a grown up, or moving as a mature man and having a conversation with these different people. It was me who decided to go into the easier route, instead of looking at myself in the mirror and being like, hey, yo, bud, you're the cause of all this. You cannot control anybody else. You can control you.
Right.
And you're not controlling yourself in this situation. What you're doing is you're letting the situation control you. And that's what I did over and over and over.
What did the ups and downs of this? You said this non-linear process. What did it look like from the highs and the lows, the good and the bad of it?
So let's go back to, I'm gonna give you the positive and negative side. On the positive side, 2015 was amazing. I told you I experienced, and I trust I experienced God, right? And I remember it was like blinders came off me, right? An amazing experience where you would feel, I personally felt the presence of God in my everyday decision. But that quickly faded because of lack of discipleship. And, you had mentioned discipleship, and that's a key thing when it comes to recovery. We can call it discipleship. It can be mentorship. It can be a vast of different names, but all in all, sponsor. All in all, it's you have somebody by your side to help you go with it. But I digress. So there was those moments, and then there were the low moments, like the self-harm moments. That was very low. Another low was the homelessness, right? Another high was when I decided to stop by myself, and I'd stay 3 months without doing anything, and the relationships would better, and there was hope in my parents' eyes, and there was hope in my friends' eyes. There was hope in that time, the relationships I had. There was hope in the girls' eyes, and all these things, right? There was hope in their eyes, and that made me feel good, right? And so I guess the peak on the positive side was recovery itself,
Right.
right? And that's through Teen Challenge and through relationship that I have with God now and all that good stuff. And I guess the lowest, just going back to the question, is self-harm. I think that was the lowest. Yeah, that was bad.
All right.
Yeah.
So now, as you're in recovery, what are some of the triggers you have to watch out for?
Oh, friendships. Let's start there. In no particular order, by the way. That's just what came to mind. Friendships. You gotta watch your friends. You gotta watch who you surround yourself with. I give a quick analogy. Most of the people in this room and probably who are gonna see this know this analogy where if you take, or there was somebody who took, was it crickets or fleas? I think it was fleas. Who took fleas, put it in a whatchamacallit, in like a cup, right? And as the fleas were jumping up and down, they would jump outside of the cup, and then they put a lid over the cup, and they let it stay for X amount of time. When they took the lid off, the fleas could not jump outside of the cup anymore.
What they had been conditioned to. Yep, gotcha.
And so anybody who was, or any fleas that were born around that condition stayed in that same place. I share this to share two parts, right? Part of the friendship, the people who you surround yourself with, you will go as high as you possibly can because of how you've seen somebody else go as high.
Right.
So surround yourself with people who challenge you to become better. And then in the conditions or in the rooms that you're in, back to answer the question, environment. I'm careful which environment I go into, because if I go into an environment that limits me, then I am not challenged to become better, and that puts me or confines me to a box, right? And that also goes in hand with, goes in hand with going into rooms I'm not supposed to be in. If I go into a room where people are drinking and are having a good time all day, every day, there's a likelihood I might be triggered to go back into that.
Right, gotcha.
Have I come across people drinking all that? I have. But the best analogy I can give is I have a bubble that if anybody comes into my bubble, they are not allowed to move in what I consider vices to myself, like the drinking. If I walk into somebody's bubble and what I consider a vice they have, right, I'm cautious enough not to change them, but to be aware that, hey, if you hang around here too long, you might end up introducing whatever is happening in this bubble into your own.
Right.
So I limit myself in that. Another trigger is what I consume, right? Because I remember watching this movie called Flight. You know, watch the movie?
I think so.
So the movie is
An excellent movie on
it,
alcoholism.
yes. So it wasn't. It is. So I remember watching it, and I remember being triggered because the consumption in that movie is a lot. Like every scene, almost every scene is Denzel drinking, right? And I remember that triggering me. So once I noticed that, I was like, this excellent movie, 10 out of 10, can help people, but this is a one-time watch, cannot go back to it. So there's that. I'm trying to think about other things, but those are the primary things I can think of right now. And the list is endless, and some of it happens on the go, right? Where I notice it and I walk away from it. Right? Because, like, mentor, discipler, has told me, has told me before is, I lost my trail of thought, trying to sound funny, but he has challenged me to, what was I gonna say? I'll come back to it.
It'll come back.
I'll come back to it.
I'm gonna take you another direction.
But there's advice that he has given me that has helped me. I'm trying to remember what it was. Anyway,
So we have so during your this recovery, I'm gonna call it a process, right? Um, number one, has your family been supportive through the process, and what are some of the key components of that? What does that look like to have a supportive family through that process?
They have been absolutely in support of it. I remember before, because of I burnt the bridges,
Mm-hmm.
it was hard for them to take my word for it. And
Mm-hmm.
clearly they couldn't, because I ended up in the same situation over and over.
Right.
But as I walked through Teen Challenge and they were able to see the transformation, it was not necessarily just to hear. It wasn't necessarily just to, oh, you know, I'm going to stop. Oh, he says this all the time. No, this time it was tangible.
Mm-hmm.
And they have been supporting me through and through. I want to say this for a fact. I've been able to see that my family has come closer together in my recovery.
Mm.
So my recovery has influenced the relationship within our family, because I trust and I believe that at some point, probably there was a blame game happening. Maybe like it was because of you that he is like this.
Right. Right. Right.
Right. But now, one that I've been currently walking in recovery, I've been able to see a mending of the family, and they have been
Excellent.
supporting me. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen them grow in relationship with God, because one thing I will do is we're going to have a conversation about God. And that brings them closer into the fold of love. And I'll just give a quick example. I was having a conversation with my brother yesterday, and we were going memory lane, and he was telling me about when he in his eyes saw me at my lowest, and in his eyes he was the most defeated.
Mm-hmm.
And he had come to see me uh, with his daughter. At that time, she was pretty young. And so the reason why he had come was the place I was renting out. Um, I came back, and it was in my house. I was renting out like a room. So I came back, and I was drunk, and I put some eggs in the on the stove. I wanted some boiled eggs, and I fell asleep.
Mm.
I almost burned down the house. If the guy didn't come in, the owner didn't come in and cut it off, I would have
Mm-hmm.
burned down the house.
Mm.
And so and this is a gentleman who had a close relationship with my brother, right? And he is a good man,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And he called my brother and was like, "Hey, yo, I don't think I can do this anymore. You gotta come through. Gotta talk to your brother, and he has to find another situation." And so he comes and he talks to the wife first, and the wife, being gracious as she is, explains the scenario, right? And then he comes into the room, and he's like, one thing I do desire is to just have a brother. Somebody who can call me and ask me, yo, how's your day been?
Mm-hmm.
Check up on me, check up on my kids,
Mm-hmm.
and just be an uncle to points of the, you know. But I don't think I have that now.
Mm.
Fast forward. Yesterday we were having the conversation, and he's like, but I've been able to see that now. I've been able to see the goodness of God. I've been able to experience this now. I remember when that was how I felt, but now I feel connected. I feel far much better.
Gotcha.
We have a relationship now. You get to see your niece and your nephew, and you get to be an uncle. And these were the things I was talking about that day in that room.
Right. Excellent.
And then he goes and starts talking about the guy who I had rented the room from, and he's like, I remember having a conversation with him, and he had decided to cut off everything. I mean, I almost burned the man's house, and I am genuinely sorry about that. But he was like, no. And so when he used to ask about me, my brother used to tell him, you know, I'm in recovery, I'm doing all this and all that. And he'd be like, okay, cool. All right, that's fine. Until the day that, because he cuts hair, until the day I went to get my hair cut, and we had a conversation, and it was an amazing conversation. And so when he was having a conversation with my brother, he was like, yeah, man, I'm super proud of him. I had a conversation the other day with him as I was cutting his hair, and yeah, he's come a long way. I'm super proud of the man that he has become. From what I experienced with him and now being able to see where he's at, I am truly grateful that he has decided to move in this way and walk into recovery.
Excellent.
And I felt that because I can only imagine what he felt, because the thought process was, as he was checking up on me, was more so like he's gonna go back, and you know, we've walked this before.
We've been through this.
We've seen this. And me taking the responsibilities of recovery and not associating myself with things that would trigger me, and making that mature decision of looking at myself in the mirror and knowing that I need to step up. I cannot go back to where I was. There are people relying on me. It's far much better to walk in responsibility than it is to put it to the side. Me having these self-talks and ultimately concentrating on my relationship with God, because I cannot do anything without him. Doing all that, I am able to say that I can freely walk in recovery, and I am freely walking in recovery.
Excellent. That's good. And I think, I know, speaking for myself and my engagement with you, I have not been so amazingly impressed with any of I've met a lot of new people since I've been in the DMV. Haven't been here, going on about 7 years now. But a person that has always stood out from the day that we first met has been Tim. And as your family and those that have supported you through this process are proud of you and the man that you've become and all the great things that you're involved in now. So likewise, myself and as well as the Metalworks family. Well, we're going to conclude with, I think Pastor Jonathan has another one final question for us.
He answered the question.
He answered.
The question
Okay.
was how's your interaction been with your family? You've done a great job of telling that story. It's an excellent testimony, Tim. Very proud of you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you for the kind words, Dr. Garrett. Yeah.
Well, just remember, you said you were going to, remember on the text, you were going to send me a few dollars if I said some nice.
Are we monetizing now?
No, it is great to have you. Good to see you again, Pastor Gray and Brother Tim. We really, again, we appreciate you making time to share with us today. You have a remarkable story, just as you are a remarkable person. And just please know that there are still even greater things to come.
Amen. I believe that. And again, thank you for the time, Dr. Garrett, Pastor Jonathan. Appreciate it. And
Excellent. Until next time, Metal Labs, Addiction and Wellness. You all be blessed.